Hello everyone, welcome to the SOMAH Contractor Series Solar Sizing Tool webinar. My name is Karina Gonzalez. I'm an outreach coordinator with the SOMAH Program Administrator, and I'll be your moderator for today's webinar. I would like to introduce you to today's speakers, Rachel Diaz and Nick Durr. Today's trainings will cover the following topics: an overview of the SOMAH program, an overview of the solar sizing tool, a demonstration on how to utilize the solar sizing tool, and information on the next steps once the solar sizing tool has been completed. There are a few things I wanted to point out before we begin the presentation. Our presentation includes live poll questions that will be scattered throughout the training. Attendees will get a minute or so to answer the question. To cast a vote, simply click on the answer you want to select. We will be setting aside some time for a Q&A session at the end of the presentation. Lastly, there will be a brief survey to gather participant feedback at the conclusion of the presentation. It's important to note that we will only accept questions submitted electronically, and for everyone's convenience, your audio will be muted. To submit a question, type your question in the question and answer panel on the right-hand side of your GoToWebinar player. We will be logging questions as they come in, so we encourage you to submit questions throughout the presentation. I'll now turn it over to Rachel to begin the presentation.
Thanks, Karina. So I'm going to first go over a brief overview of the SOMAH program. The goals of SOMAH are to provide clean power and energy cost savings to California multifamily affordable housing residents, to promote economic development in disadvantaged communities, to provide maximum direct benefits to tenants, and develop a larger pool of contractors and a competitive bidding process. And at the moment, the SOMAH program is fully subscribed in the SDG&E, PG&E, and SCE utility territories, while Liberty and Pacific Core utility territories still have project funds available. Please note that the waitlist for SDG&E is closed, but PG&E and SCE are still taking applications for their waitlists. We are encouraging contractors in those two territories to continue to submit applications, as you'll be locking in the incentive rate that is available when you submit your reservation. More waitlist information is available at calsomah.org/waitlist. And all applications submitted to SOMAH are listed in the data set, and that's available on California DG Stats website at californiadgstats.ca.gov. And this graphic here shows the typical SOMAH project timeline. You can see Track A includes the 3-month upfront technical assistance period with the actual installation timeline starting once the reservation request package has been approved. After the reservation request package is approved, there is an 18-month time period for both tracks for the incentive claim package to be submitted. In between the reservation request package and submitting the incentive claim package, we have 2 requirements that must also be met. The first being the energy efficiency milestone, which is due 60 days after the reservation request package approval, and the proof of project milestone, which is due 240 days from the reservation request package approval. And so the solar sizing tool is a component of the energy efficiency compliance milestone. The energy efficiency compliance milestone must be submitted within 60 calendar days of that reservation approval notice. And the solar sizing tool must be completed for both Track A and Track B projects. And the energy efficiency compliance milestone is designed to ensure that the final system and reserved incentive amount are appropriately sized to account for existing load reduction opportunities and expected load addition projects that might be planned for this property. The energy efficiency compliance milestone, again, must be submitted within 60 calendar days of that reservation approval notice. And there are 2 ways to achieve the energy efficiency compliance milestone, and in addition to completing the solar sizing tool. SOMAH requires documentation of whichever pathway is chosen, plus the completed solar sizing tool. The first pathway to complete the energy efficiency compliance milestone is to hire a credentialed energy auditor to do a whole building energy efficiency audit that aligns with the ASHRAE Level 1 audit. In addition, we have created an energy auditor database to serve as a resource for contractors to find credentialed auditors. And energy auditors must have one of the credentials listed on this slide. These credentials are also listed in section 2.5 of the program handbook. And the second pathway to completing the energy efficiency compliance milestone is to provide documentation showing that the property has had recent or active participation in any of the following: an approved whole building energy upgrade program, documentation of a recent California tax credit allocation committee rehabilitation, or documentation that the property was completely constructed under a recent version of Title 24. So I'm now going to go over an overview of the solar sizing tool. So the solar sizing tool was created to measure and determine the maximum possible size of the PV system being installed. This tool is required regardless of which pathway is selected and should be filled out by an energy efficiency consultant. The goal is to ensure that solar systems are appropriately sized to account for achievable energy efficiency opportunities specific to the common area meters and tenant meters, including cost-effective measures such as LED lighting. System sizing for SOMAH will only incorporate measures that are included in the Energy Savings Assistance Program or similar no-cost programs that the property is eligible for. This tool is Excel-based, and it's designed to be a simple data entry tool that will produce automatic calculations based on the criteria entered. This tool is available at calsomah.org/apply. And I'm now going to turn it over to Nick Durr to do a demonstration on how to complete the solar sizing tool.
Hi, Rachel. Thank you, and good morning, everyone. So I'm going to walk through the solar sizing tool and give a live demonstration on how to use the tool. The tool, like Rachel mentioned, is an Excel file, and it has 3 tabs in it: the Instructions tab, the Property Characteristics tab, and the Opportunities tab. In the first tab, for instructions, it provides an overview of how to use the tool. Essentially, the main part of the tool is to complete the property characteristics page. Based on the information that's entered in the property characteristics page, the report will show you what the energy efficiency opportunities are at the property, and will also allow you to select potential electric load addition opportunities, such as electrification of gas or propane equipment. The next step would be to enter the historic electricity consumption as aggregated for the common areas and for the tenant accounts. And this will be provided to you via PowerClerk. Finally, you can review the overall outputs of the tool, and then ultimately you will need to upload the Excel file to PowerClerk at the energy efficiency compliance milestone stage. And additionally, there is a signature page that the owner will be required to initial and sign, and you'll upload that PDF to PowerClerk as well. So the next tab is the Property Characteristics tab. And as was mentioned before, this tool is intended to be able to be completed within 20 to 30 minutes by an experienced energy efficiency professional. So the overall data entry is intended to be very minimal. I'll provide an overview of all of the general sections in the Property Characteristics tab, and then I'll go through each of them individually. So the first section is basic project site information. The second is basic property information. The third is the envelope. Then hot water, heating, and air conditioning. Other mechanical equipment information. And then finally, a summary of the lights at the property. So to begin, there's notes in each of these cells to provide guidance on what should be entered. It's color-coded. The white cells are meant for user data entry, and the dark gray cells, again, are providing instructions, and then the yellowish cell is automatically calculated. So you'll be asked to enter your PowerClerk application number. You can get this direct from PowerClerk. So for this one, I just entered an example PG&E 123456. Next, you'll type in the property name as entered in the PowerClerk. You'll enter the property address, so the street address, the city, and the zip code. And the zip code is important because this will automatically look up which California climate zone is appropriate. So in this example, I entered the zip code for Stockton and automatically confirmed that that climate zone is climate zone 12. I could type in any other zip code and it would update that to reflect the correct zip code. Next, you'll enter the author. So whomever is completing this actual workbook edition, you'll enter that name here. So in this one, I entered the auditor's name of Jane Auditor. And then you'll enter the title of the author for this workbook. And so, as was mentioned before, at the energy efficiency compliance milestone stage, this workbook will need to be completed by an approved energy efficiency consultant. However, you can download and use this workbook whenever you would like. And so I would encourage you to use it even earlier in the project's timeline to confirm what the total energy efficiency and load addition impacts may be. And so if different authors are using this at other times, you can note that here. So if this is a property staff person, a solar contractor, or other that's completing this, you can note that here. But again, at the energy efficiency compliance milestone stage, it'll ultimately need to be completed and signed off by an energy efficiency consultant. And you can enter their credential information here. So it's the same list of credentials that was mentioned before. And then you'll enter the actual credential number for that person. The next is to enter the organization that owns this property. So whether it's a nonprofit or for-profit affordable housing company, you'll enter that information here. The primary point of contact at the property, their phone number, and their email. And then you'll select the electric and gas utility for this particular project. So I can choose from any of the 5 electricity utilities, as well as the gas utilities. So this property, the sample project's in Stockton, so both the electric and the gas utilities will be PG&E. Next, you'll enter the year built for the property, the number of apartments at the property, the number of buildings at the property, and the number of floors at the property. And sometimes, some buildings and some properties have a mix of, different sizes of buildings. Some might be 2-story, some might be 3-story. And so we're interested in the number that's most appropriate for this property. So if the majority of the buildings are 3 stories and some are 2, you can enter the number 3 here. Next, you'll enter the occupancy type. So this is really the demographics at the property. And so some are predominantly seniors or families, others are predominantly supportive housing or single room occupancy type, and others are mixed, and that could be all different types of demographics. So select whatever you think is most appropriate for your property here. You can also select other and type it into the right. You'll enter the total number of bedrooms at the property, and this should be very easy to calculate. You should be able to get this information from the property directly. So in this example, we have 50 apartments total. Let's say, some of those are 1-bedrooms and some of those are 2-bedroom units, but overall the total number of bedrooms at the property is 80. So you'll enter that here. And then enter the total gross building floor area for the whole property. And so basically you're going to be adding together the square footage of each of the units. And again, this is usually pretty typically easy to get from the property owner. They'll often have a count of the unit types and the square footage of each, so you can build a very easy Excel calculation to get that total square footage. Next, you'll enter building envelope information. And again, these are all very simple drop downs. And so you need to choose the wall construction type, whether it's wood, brick, concrete, metal, or other. And then just a simple yes, no, is the wall insulated? So we're not concerned what the specific R value is or the insulation type, just yes or no, whether the wall is insulated. Similar for roof construction, so whether it's pitched, flat wood, flat concrete, or other. The insulation type in the attic or the amount, and again, just very general categories. So R0, which would imply no insulation, R19, R30, or R38. And again, use your professional opinion to decide what would be most appropriate if you think the insulation is in between one of these values. Next, you'll choose window frame type, wood, vinyl, metal, or other. And then glazing type, single, double, or other. And again, like I mentioned before, if it's a mix across the property, choose what is the most predominant type at the property. Next, you'll enter information on the mechanical systems. So domestic hot water, so that's water for showers and faucets, space heating, and air conditioning. And each of these are conditional. So the pick list is dependent on what was selected earlier to limit the amount of data that you need to go through. So for example, for domestic hot water equipment, I would choose whether it's central, which would be a water heater or a boiler that provides hot water to the whole property or the whole building, or in unit. Then whether that water heater is gas, electric, or propane, and then some general details on what type of water heater it is. So if I had chosen central electric, then my options for the water heating type are specific to electric water heaters. And the same applies for in-unit technologies. Similar logic on space heating type and unit or central. Again, central meaning that there's a heating plant that provides heating to all of the units. Fuel type, gas, electric, or propane, and then a basic selection of the heating equipment type. So in this example, I'm selecting a forced air furnace. And then air conditioning. So obviously all properties are going to have hot water and space heating, but not all properties have air conditioning. So the first question we'll ask is there an air conditioning system at the property? So if the answer is no, then you no longer need to fill in additional information. If the answer is yes, then select whether it's in-unit or central air conditioning type. And then based on that type, if it's a type of air conditioning that has a SEER value, and SEER is a descriptor for how efficient the air conditioner is, we want to know whether the majority of air conditioners have a value above or below 10, the SEER 10. So in this instance, I selected ducted split system AC, and do the majority of these ACs have a SEER value of less than 10? If the answer is no, then you select that. If the answer is yes, then you can select the opposite. Like I mentioned before, if it's a through the window air conditioner, those do not have SEER values, so you do not need to enter that additional information. Next is other mechanical equipment at the property. So the quantity of pools and spas at the property. Most of these projects are unlikely to have pools, but some do. So if there's no pools, then you can enter 0 and you do not need to enter additional information. If there are pools, you enter the quantity, whether those pools have a variable speed pump on them, which is an energy efficiency opportunity. So if the answer is yes, then you just match the number of variable speed pumps to the number of pools. Whether the pool is heated, and if so, whether it's gas, electric, or not heated or heated with solar. Same information if there's a spa. Then the surface area of the pool, and this is very easy to calculate. Usually you can even do this from Google Earth, especially if it's a rectangular pool, and just length times width. This will determine how much energy goes into heating the pool. If it's a high-rise building, so 5 stories or more, which I don't expect to be a large percentage of SOMAH participants, but if it is, those buildings often have a booster pump. So if there is a booster pump, you would select yes, and then note whether it's variable speed or not. Then also note whether the laundry equipment is central in unit, whether the dryers are gas, electric, or propane, whether the majority of refrigerators are older than 2000, and then the cooking type in the apartments, whether it's gas, electric, propane, or no, they have no cooking. Finally, you'll enter very basic information about the lights at the property, and the tool is only interested in the lights that are assigned to the common area meters. So this would be for 24-hour fixtures. So these are fixtures that are on 24 hours a day, most commonly in corridors, stairwells, parking garages, or lobbies. and then also 12-hour fixtures. And so these are the fixtures that are on all night, usually controlled by a time clock or a photosensor. So these are not the light fixtures that are used by the tenants on their patios or entryways. These are only the fixtures that are on the common area meter that provide site or whole building lighting. And the tool is only interested in lights that have not yet been converted to LED. So if all the common area lighting has already been converted to LED, you can check yes, and you are done entering common area lighting information. However, if not all of the lights have yet been converted to LED, you'll select no, and then you'll select whether there's 12-hour fixtures or 24-hour fixtures at the property. So, a lot of low-rise buildings and garden-style buildings are unlikely to have 24-hour fixtures, so they're unlikely to have, continually lit corridors, stairwells, parking garages, or lobbies. So if that's the case, you can select no, and you do not need to enter any information into the 24-hour column. However, I would expect that most properties have night lighting that's on the common area meter, so lights that are providing lighting all night long. So I would expect in most instances this would be yes, but it certainly could be no, and if that's the case, then no information needs to be entered. Then, based on what you selected above, you'll need to identify which non-LED fixtures are still at the property and very basic lighting types. So you'll select between incandescent, CFL, linear fluorescent, or high intensity discharge, but no other information is needed on the type. And then you'll put the lighting into general fixture wattage buckets. So for instance, at the property, if there's a number of CFLs that are 16 watts, and there's a number of CFLs that are 18 watts, and there's a number of CFLs that are 23 watts, you can put all of those lighting types into one fixture bucket. So in this example, this property had 10 CFLs that were between 15 and 29 watts in the common areas, in the 24-hour common areas, had 30 light fixtures that were between 5 and 14 watts that were using CFL, and similar logic for linear fluorescence. And then the very same thing applies to common area exterior lighting. So you'll note the lighting type, again, incandescent, CFL, linear fluorescent, or high intensity discharge. And then you'll put the total quantity of lights that fall into these general wattage buckets. And these wattage buckets are intended to make it very easy to count the light fixtures and to enter them into this category so that you don't need to have a super long list. And it's dependent on the lighting type. So for example, high intensity discharge, those could be very large light fixtures. They could be, 100 watts all the way up to 600 or 1,000 watts. And so there's these general categories for you to choose from. Whereas a CFL, those are most often going to be lower wattage fixtures, and very rarely they'll be over 100, but if so, you can note that here. And that's all you would need to do for the property characteristics tab. So again, we've gone through and practiced this a few times, and based on the information collected on site, or if you went through the pathway 2 that was mentioned before, so they participated in a whole building program, or they went through Title 24 recently, is newly built property, or went through a TCAC rehab, the energy consultant should be able to fill in all this information provided by those the property's participation in those programs. Finally, this is an overview of the energy efficiency opportunities, an overview of the electric load addition opportunities, and then comparing the two against historic consumption and the solar PV system that was entered into the power clerk at reservation request. So to start, this table, again, is going to identify all the energy efficiency opportunities that were noted in the units. These are wholly conditional on the existing conditions that were entered on the previous tab, and are wholly conditional on the measure opportunities that are provided by the utility energy savings assistance program. So only those that are eligible under ESA will show up as an efficiency opportunity in the solar sizing tool. So obviously there's going to be additional energy efficiency opportunities in the units at the property. And hopefully if you went through pathway 1, you're going to note those to the property owner so that they can identify additional savings opportunities for the residents. But in regards to how the solar sizing tool is sizing your PV system, it's only looking at the EEC eligible measures. And then very similar for the common areas. So the 3 measures that are being looked at for the common areas are the pool pump, 24-hour lighting fixtures, and then 12-hour nighttime fixtures. So in these 2 examples, we noted that the existing roof insulation was R0. The tool is recommending that those apartment attics are increased to R38, and the savings would be about almost 10,800 kilowatt hours for all of the apartments combined. On the common area side, converting the single speed pool pump to a variable speed pool pump would save almost 900 kilowatt hours. Upgrading the 24-hour lighting fixtures to LED would save about 4,800 kilowatt hours, and upgrading the nighttime evening 12-hour fixtures to LED would save almost 3,700 kilowatt hours. So these are summed together accordingly. Next, you can select additional load opportunities that you would like to consider at the property. So these are opportunities to convert natural gas or propane fossil fuel systems to high efficiency electric, to add continuous ventilation to the apartments for indoor air quality benefits, or to add electric vehicle charging to the property. And so there's a number of pre-selected load addition opportunities that you can toggle yes, no on, and it will automatically calculate what the load addition could be, again, based on the property characteristics tab that was entered before. So in this property, I'd mentioned that the space heating was a gas furnace, and so if I wanted to convert that to a heat pump, I could select that yes here, and it would show that this would increase the consumption across the property for the tenants by a total of 9,900 kilowatt hours. And you can do the same thing for these other measures as well. If you would like, you can also provide a custom calculation for these load addition opportunities. Again, the tool is using deemed calculations, and we're hopeful it's useful for the majority of projects, but if you want to do more nuanced calculations for what you think the load addition should be, you have the ability to do that. You would just select yes here. You would enter the estimated load addition per apartment. So I could enter 1,000 kilowatt hours, and it's going to multiply that times the number of apartments in the building. And then you'll need to provide supporting documentation to the SOMAH PA team so that they can review those calculations and confirm that they're accurate. Similar applies to the common areas. So I could select whether I wanted to convert the central water heater from gas or propane to electric, and that would provide new load that a solar PV system from SOMAH could offset. Very similar for pool heating, as well as the quantity of electric vehicle charging stations that the property plans to install. And so you can enter a number here and it'll auto-calculate what the load addition would be. In particular, if your project does plan on adding electric vehicle charging stations and as part of the SOMAH PV project, this may be an instance where you would likely want to use the custom calculations because the amount of kilowatt hour load for electric vehicle chargers is very, very dependent on the use type, whether they're shared, whether it's just for specific tenants or property staff, the average mileage that users are driving. So in those instances, you can certainly use this number, and it's based on the residential average across the state from current EV programs, but you may want to use the custom calculation as well. And again, you need to provide supporting documentation to justify that. Finally, you'll enter the historic electricity consumption at the property over the last 12 years. And again, this will be provided to you via Power Clerk. When you submit your reservation request to Power Clerk, the SOMAH PA team will ask for this information from the appropriate electricity utility. And so you can enter that information here. So I entered 30,000 kilowatt hours for the owner paid accounts for the common areas and 150,000 kilowatt hours for all of the apartment meters aggregated together. And then you'll enter the Power Clerk numbers that from EPBB that were entered at the reservation request stage. So this is the the size of the PV system that was originally entered at that step. So you'll enter the allocation to the owner meters as well as to the tenant meters, the system rating and CEC AC, the CSI rating, the inverter rating, the design factor, and finally the total estimated annual production for the solar PV system. And in summary, you'll now see each of those things together. So you'll see the historic consumption relative to the efficiency opportunities and the electric load addition opportunities. And that's compared to the solar PV system that was entered at reservation request. The same thing for the tenants, historic consumption, efficiency opportunities, and load addition opportunities. And as long as the solar PV system is sized such that it's below these recommended offsets, then you're okay. If these recommended offsets are smaller than what the solar PV size was submitted, then that'll cap the incentives that could go to that SOMAH PV system. Finally, you'll click this signature page here, and the property owner will need to initial any alerts and then sign this. And then at the energy efficiency compliance stage, you will upload both the Excel file to PowerClerk as well as this PDF. And that concludes the live demonstration. So Rachel, it's back over to you.
Thank you, Nick. That was a really helpful demo. I appreciate it. So moving on, the solar sizing tool results will determine the maximum incentive amount, and if the system size differs from what is determined by the solar sizing tool, the incentive amount may be impacted. If it's smaller than originally specified, the incentive amount will be based on the installed system size. And if it is larger than originally specified, then the additional capacity will not be incentivized. If the solar sizing tool indicates that there are no electricity load reduction opportunities, and this is corroborated by the Energy Audit Report, Pathway 1, or documentation of a recent energy upgrade in Pathway 2, then the maximum PV size will be based on historical electricity consumption alone. And so next, once an energy efficiency compliance milestone is determined to be complete, the SOMAH PA will send the energy efficiency compliance notice to the applicant, host customer, and system owner. The notice will list updates to the SOMAH incentive amount based on the solar sizing tool, if applicable. And within 30 days of the energy efficiency compliance milestone, the SOMAH PA will conduct site verifications on a sampling of projects to verify accuracy of the energy audit report and the solar sizing tool. If there's anything out of compliance, it will be relayed to the property owner, energy audit firm, and host customer within 60 days of the original submission. And if there are repeated non-compliance findings from an individual contractor or firm across multiple projects, it will result in the contractor or firm being placed on a provisionary process for all submitted projects until the issue is corrected. And if these instances are deliberate, consequences can include infractions or disqualification from the program. Now, I'll spend the next few minutes going over load additions and energy efficiency opportunities. So, due to the current status of the SOMAH program, incentives will be capped at the amount listed in the reservation request approval notice. Please note that this is only the case for utility territories on a wait list, so SDG&E, PG&E, and SCE. If a project has a load addition that surpasses the reserved incentive amount, the load addition will not be incentivized. And examples of load additions may include the planned completion of any of the following measures: conversion of fossil fuel water heating to high efficiency electric, conversion of fossil fuel space heating to high efficiency electric, conversion of fossil fuel cooking, gas, laundry, drying, or gas pool heating to high efficiency electric, or installation of electric vehicle charging stations at the property. And the SOMAH PA is available to discuss additional clean energy and energy efficiency program opportunities. We're also here to help navigate contractors throughout all phases of the program. To provide further support, each application will have an assigned application manager who can provide application-related assistance, and they'll also have an energy project manager who can help to identify potential energy, water, and health-related programs as relevant to the property. The SOMAH PA and the EPM, or the Energy Project Manager, can also offer connections to other programs covering topics such as energy efficiency, demand response and load shifting, battery storage, electrification, and electric vehicle charging. If your host customers would like to participate in any of those programs, you can submit a standard technical assistance request. And standard TA is offered for all participants throughout the duration of the project from the start of the reservation request package approval. You do not have to sign up to receive standard technical assistance. You just need to submit that request, and that can be found on our website. Examples of services provided by standard TA include energy efficiency and clean energy technical assistance, project management and post-application technical assistance, and financial technical assistance. And to submit that standard TA request, you can visit our website, calsomah.org, and select Technical Assistance from our main menu. And you'll be directed to a form in which you'll need to enter your contact information, application number, and a message describing what you'd like assistance on. And once you submit your request, a member of the SOMAH PA will follow up with you within 3 business days.
We have now reached the end of the content for this presentation, and we will use the remainder of the time to field questions. As a reminder, we will only be answering questions submitted electronically, and you can submit questions by using the Q&A panel on the right-hand side of your GoToWebinar player. We've been logging questions as they come in, so you don't need to resubmit your questions. Okay, so starting off, the first question is for Nick. Is the ASHRAE Level 1 audit required?
If there's 2 pathways for the energy efficiency compliance milestone. So the second pathway, the audit is not required. So if the property has recently completed a whole building upgrade under an energy efficiency program, if it's recently gone through rehabilitation through TCAC or SIDLAC, or if it was built in a recent version of Title 24, then the ASHRAE Level 1 audit is not required, but you still need to complete the source sizing tool based on the information that's available. If the project's not going through Pathway 2, then it does need to go through Pathway 1, which is the whole building energy audit.
Thank you, Nick. The second question is for Rachel. If the project is waitlisted, can the project begin construction before getting a reservation approval?
Thanks, Karina. Technically, a project can begin construction while on the wait list. However, it is pretty risky. In some instances, getting that interconnection agreement may be difficult, and you're not able to access a SOMAH tariff unless you have a confirmed reservation. And please also be aware that the project milestones are tied to the start of the construction.
Thank you, Rachel. So it looks like we have another question for Nick. Does the energy audit take away the requirement for the tenant sample unit audit?
So again, if the property is going through the Pathway 2 for the energy efficiency compliance milestone, then you can use that path, the information and details collected previously to inform the source sizing tool, so the units would not need to be sampled under Pathway 2. Under Pathway 1, for a whole building energy audit, then the sampling of the units would need to be verified.
Thank you, Nick. So it looks like we have a question about who fills out the property manager's contact information. Nick, can you provide some insight there?
Sure. Yeah, so the only contact information on the source sizing tool that needs to be entered is the primary point of contact at the property. And this is ultimately the decision maker that is responsible for managing the SOMAH PV project. So that's going to be the entity that will be signing the PDF signature form at the end of the solar sizing tool.
Great, thank you for that clarification. My next question is for Rachel. Did the SOMAH PA ever hold a workshop for the solar sizing tool?
Yes, the SOMAH PA did hold a workshop for the solar sizing tool, and I believe it was held in September 2018. There was also a commenting period in which stakeholders were able to provide feedback, and we definitely took some of those comments into consideration when coming up with this most recent version of the tool.
Perfect, thank you. My next question is for Nick. If the building heights are evenly spread, one building with 2 floors and one building with 3 floors, which do we choose?
If they're evenly spread, then I would choose whichever size type had the most dwelling units in it. So if there was, a 1 3-story building and 1 2-story building, if the 3-story building had more units in it than the 2-story building, then I would select the number 3 for the solar sizing tool.
Thank you for that. My next question is also for Nick. So it looks like there's some confusion on previous MASH energy audit requirements and how they apply to SOMAH. Nick, can you provide some clarification on that?
Sure. Yeah, I believe the official language says that properties served under the SOMAH program should be provided with energy efficiency services at least equal to those applicable to the current MASH program, but it doesn't state that it has to be exactly equal to.
Great, thank you for that clarification. My next question is also for Nick. Does the solar sizing tool include material and labor estimate costs to implement the electric load additions?
No, unfortunately not. Just because that can be a very property dependent number. So if a project is interested in pursuing one of those load additions, I would recommend that they reach out to a qualified installation contractor or vendor to get some estimates.
Great, thank you for that. My next question is for Rachel. Is there a consideration of which measures are economically viable? If the system size is based on measures that will not be implemented, it will unnecessarily reduce the system size. Can you provide some more insight into that, Rachel?
Yes. So the solar sizing tool, energy efficiency measures align with those that are provided for free by the EEC programs.
That makes a lot of sense. Thank you, Rachel. My next question is for Nick. Who is the authority on ASHRAE results if there are competing points of view?
So for projects that are going through level 1, the energy audit reports will be reviewed by the SOMAH PA to ensure that they align with the SOMAH energy audit report template. And the SOMAH PA will conduct site verifications on a sampling of projects to confirm the accuracy of that report as well as the solar sizing tool. And then anything that sort of differentiates from general program requirements, that information will be relayed back to the property owner and the submitter, the point of contact within PowerClerk.
Great, thank you for that, Nick. My next question is for Rachel. Is the solar sizing tool available for download to the public?
Yes, of course. The solar sizing tool is available on our website, which is calsomah.org/apply. And if you go to that page, you scroll down a little bit, and it's under the Energy Efficiency Compliance Milestone section.
Great, thank you, Rachel. And kind of a follow-up to that question, can you explain in more detail what the process of uploading the completed solar sizing tool looks like?
Yes. So once the solar sizing tool has been filled out and is fully executed and it has those necessary signatures, It will then need to be uploaded to PowerClerk, and after the reservation request milestone, and you're already in this energy efficiency compliance milestone portion of the application, there should be a section for the solar sizing tool results. So you'll have the option to upload the completed copy of the solar sizing tool and the signature page in that section.
Great, thank you for that explanation. Also, another question for Rachel. Can you explain what PowerClerk is?
Yes. So for those who may not know, PowerClerk is the application processing software that we use for the SOMAH program. We do have different utility portals, and if you don't have an account, you can jump onto one of those utility portals. Just for example, it will be calsomahpge.powerclerk.com, and there you'll be able to create an account, register for the SOMAH program, and you can then add different utility portals for the SOMAH program there. We also do have some instructions posted on our website in the Contractor page near the bottom as a resource. So if you have any additional questions about what PowerClerk is or how you can create an account, definitely I recommend visiting calsomah.org/contractors.
Thank you, Rachel. Another question for you, Rachel. Is there a way to appeal the solar sizing tool results?
So, great question. Any contractor that has questions about the solar sizing tool or other program tools are encouraged to submit a request for technical assistance to discuss your specific project in more detail with the SOMAH PA. And then from there, we can engage with any contractor that may have questions or concerns, and we'll try to, provide as much assistance as possible.
Great, thank you for that, Rachel. My next question is for Nick. After the energy audit, is the property owner required to take the energy efficiency measures prior to the solar installation?
Nope, that's a good question. So the intent of the energy audit and the solar sizing tool is, as well as the load addition opportunities, is to help owners be aware of opportunities to reduce consumption at the property, both for the common areas as well for the residents. Again, the SOMAH program is, really trying to focus to help reduce the energy burden for low-income residents, and so we certainly want to help identify energy savings opportunities for those folks. But again, these are all just general guidance requirements, and so energy efficiency upgrades do not actually have to take place prior to participation or during participation for the SOMAH PA program or the SOMAH PV program. It's just to identify, again, low-cost energy efficiency opportunities for both the common areas as well as for the tenants. In addition, the one thing that would need to be done is if the size of the PV system is based on the assumption that one of the load addition opportunities will be pursued, again, we would need to see verification at the incentive claim stage that process is already completed, or at least it's officially underway.
Thank you, Nick. We're coming up on time here, so this is the final question, and it's for Nick. Can you use a different modeling software instead of the solar sizing tool?
So for the energy efficiency opportunities, we're using the solar sizing tool to provide consistency. I would say that the savings assumptions the tool is using is very, very conservative and probably less than what would actually happen in practice, and that's by design to minimize any potential solar sizing impact. But for that reason, the energy efficiency calculations need to be used via the solar sizing tool. That said, we would certainly encourage feedback. If folks find that the numbers may be too high or too low, then we'd be very happy to review those so that we can incorporate it into the next revision of the solar sizing tool. However, for the load additions, as I mentioned during the live demo, we do have default calculations on those that can be used, but because that could be very Property dependent, you do have the opportunity to submit alternative calculations if the project is pursuing load additions.
Thank you, Nick. So we have now reached the end of the presentation. Thank you everyone for participating in today's webinar. If we were not able to answer your questions, we encourage you to reach out via email or phone, and we'd be happy to follow up with you. Also, please remember to take a few moments at the end of this presentation to answer our brief survey. We would really appreciate any feedback you have about today's webinar. Thank you, everyone.